Hey guys, how's it going? So this is going to be a Q&A video, more of a hangout type video. So I hope you guys enjoy this format. I know some of you like longer videos. This video will probably be about an hour or so. And I decided to offer an additional perk to the people who help financially support the channel because I don't do any pay-for-play type videos. I don't have any gun companies paying me to do reviews, none of that. My only sponsors are all of you. So I opened this up to my Patreon supporters, YouTube channel members, and supporters on Locals, and I said, hey, ask me any type of question that's gun related, anything to do with guns, gun rights, whatever, and I would come back and answer these questions. Now, I like all of you guys, and I know a ton of you aren't financially supporting, but you're supporting the channel in other ways, so that's why I chose to put this out publicly on YouTube for everybody to enjoy. So I hope you guys like this, and I'm just going to go through the questions and answer them. And real quick here, one of the common questions I had where a few people joined in on was asking about gunsmithing. And I'm not a gunsmith and don't know a lot about it, so stick around for the second half of this video because I actually did a joint video with my friend Joe from Shooting Gallery, New England. So that's going to be the second half of this, and we had a really cool conversation about maybe whether you would want to be a gunsmith or not, what's all involved in it, what's some of the rewards, things like that. So if you're wondering about gunsmithing, that's going to be the second half. But I'm going to go through here and just answer these questions and show you guys a few guns and hang out with you here in the shop. And if any of you would like to help support the channel, there's links down there in the description for Patreon. You can join as a channel member on YouTube. You can go over to Locals, which is another website. It's a censorship-free community for free, or you can support. And for those of you that don't have any money to support, just keep watching my videos, give them a thumbs up, share with your friends. And I even have an Amazon link down in the description of all my videos. You can just do your normal shopping. A small percentage comes back to the channel, and it'll cost you nothing. And you can still help out that way too. So I appreciate the way all you guys support, because like I said, I'm doing this by myself and with the help from all of you, and it's not cheap to run a gun channel, and just the way things are on the internet nowadays, it's just tough. But I'm having a good time, and I'll be here as long as I can. So the first question I got was from C Noontime, Chad Noonan. So thanks for your support, man. He said, I would like to know how you got into shooting. What did you learn to shoot on first? Who got you into guns? And the importance of the Second Amendment. As a follower, I know your first gun was a SKS. I would like to see it. Maybe I'm just old nostalgic, having gotten into guns at the same time period, but maybe some of your YouTube followers haven't heard the story. Okay, and there's another part of the question, but okay, when did I first get into shooting guns? Well, let's go all the way back, and I guess this isn't really a real gun. It's actually a cap gun, and my mom found this in her attic not too long ago and gave it to me, and I thought I'd show it to you guys here. This is actually a Pony Boy cap gun. You can see 1873 style that would see the caps here, double action. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like a double action pull, but you have to cock the hammer back, so it's not really double action or single action, but there you go. This is literally my first gun, even though it's not a real gun, from when I was like a really, really little kid. So I'm sharing this for the first time on camera with all of you guys. Let's fast forward to, maybe a couple years later or around this time. The first time I ever shot a gun was actually off my parents' front porch. It was my dad's Glenfield Model 60. That's a single shot 22 long rifle. So that's the first firearm that I ever shot as a very small kid, literally off the front porch. So that's the first gun I ever shot. Now, what actually got me more into shooting was friends of mine were into guns that didn't live too far away, and they had a little more property, and I can remember shooting their shotguns, particularly a Remington 870 Express Marine Magnum, which was a really cool gun back in the day. This was all pre-Freedom Group and all that kind of stuff. So I remember shooting some, pump action shotguns. And then it wasn't much longer after that. My first gun that I bought was an SKS, and I bought it in 1994. And not to let you down, but I don't actually have that exact SKS here. That's at home. I will I'll do that probably in the follow-up video. Next time I do one of these, I'll bring the original SKS. But I do have another one here. And the first, it was probably, oh, let's see here. It was right around the time when the assault weapons ban went through. So stuff was kind of starting to change in the gun climate there. And as you guys know, that ban lasted 10 years, 1994 to 2004. And I was 15 years old at that time. So how much did it cost? Well, SKSs are going for around $100 back then or so. Chinese, and my first one was a Chinese Type 56 SKS. Well, the guy I bought it from was actually friends with the same family that I used to go over and shoot a lot of guns at their house, right? That lived kind of, I would say down the street, but we were kind of out in the country, so it was down the street, but like 3 miles away, right? And he had bought, you know, cheap Chinese SKS at the time, and he had just bought a new Monte Carlo stock for it, like a black polymer stock, and he had spent like $130 on the stock. Some of you guys remember back then when it would cost more for the stock than it would the actual rifle itself. So he said, look, dude, I just need money for whatever reason it was at the time. If you just want to give me $130, which is what I have into this stock, and he had like just bought it within the last couple months at Cabela's or something like that. And he said, just give me the $130 and you can have the stock and the whole gun. And it still had the original Chinese chew wood furniture set with it, bayonet and all of that. It didn't come with a ton of ammo, but there was a little bit of ammo that was included in it, a couple of stripper clips and a bandolier. So I bought that in 1994, and that was the first gun I ever bought. And they're awesome rifles. I still love the SKS today, but back then I bought it because it was cheap. I didn't have money for an AR because those were like well over $1,000, if not $1,500 back then. And SKS were around 100, AKs maybe 300. So that's why I got into the SKS, and I'm really glad I did because it's an awesome rifle and I still really enjoy it today, and I love shooting 7.62 by 39 out of many different type rifles. Let me take a look at the other parts of this question here. So, you know, my dad originally, I guess, right, shooting with him at home, and then friends of mine had a big influence on that as far as who got me into guns. The importance of the Second Amendment. I've talked about that a ton, and it's actually stated literally in the Second Amendment. That's what's cool about the Second Amendment. A lot of the amendments, because see, these are negative rights. These are rights that are endowed by your creator. The Second Amendment doesn't grant you these rights. They're actually prohibitions on government. So you have these rights, and you're endowed by your creator with these rights, certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, shortly after writing the Constitution, the Founding Fathers said, we can't take these for granted because a tyrannical government could encroach upon our natural rights. So they decided to write the Bill of Rights just a couple years later. And the Second Amendment literally tells you why. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So the what is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and the why is being necessary to the security of a free state. So I know that's kind of a simple answer, but if you think about it, it's actually a profound answer. The Second Amendment's necessary to protect our natural rights, because without being able to exercise that right freely to keep and bear arms, we will not be a free state. And we have over 24,000 federal gun control laws and regulations right now, and I would argue we're becoming less free every day. And if we completely lose the Second Amendment and the government no longer protects our natural right to keep and bear arms, we're certainly going to be a lot less free. And I think a lot of you guys already know that. That's why we need to keep on fighting to preserve the free exercise of these natural rights. Okay, there's more to the question here. What made you decide to start your channel? Well, I wanted to start it about probably 8 to 10 years before I did. And I kind of regret that I didn't earlier, and I probably should have. But just to be honest with you guys, I was too nervous to get on a camera and talk. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, well, I'm not good at acting. I don't know how I'm going to get on there and create like this persona, and I thought about ways I would do it, and I said, I don't know how to do this. Like, I just wasn't cut out to be like a personality online, or you know what I'm saying, or be in movies or an actor, or any of that stuff that kind of goes through your head when you think about starting a YouTube channel. And I thought that's what would be necessary. Well, guess what? Let's fast forward to today. I'm still not an actor, still don't know how to do that, would never be able to go into Hollywood. But I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. I'm just going to get on here, hang out with people, talk to them about stuff, talk to them about their natural rights, talk to them about firearms, just share it with people. And people probably won't like it, you know, but if they do, then cool. So that's actually what I'm still doing today, and I guess I'm lucky that a lot more people like to watch my stuff than I ever thought would. But yeah, so what made me decide to become a channel, I just said, you know what, enough's enough. I just need to get out there, share my knowledge and love of firearms, and also share my knowledge and love of our natural rights, particularly the Second Amendment, but all of our natural rights. And I said, I'm just going to do it, see what happens. And that's still actually what I'm doing right now, just being here, hanging out with you guys, being myself, and seeing what happens. So that's the answer to that question. He says, how did you meet Mateo? Which Mateo is a big help to the channel. He's a team member over on Locals, helps keep that whole community up and running, a moderator here on YouTube, and a good friend of mine personally, and a good friend of the channel. Helps with so many things you guys don't know about, and probably wouldn't be able to do as much content as I do if it weren't for all of his knowledge and just behind the scenes stuff that he helps me with. I met him on YouTube, hanging out in live streams on other channels and whatnot, and I don't know, like I said, I just got here in front of the camera, he stuck around, and we started talking offline on the phone and whatnot, and there you go, he's still here, and I'm glad that he is. Alright, let's see here. And he says he's really looking forward to the Q&A, and that's awesome, man. Now, there was a quick follow-up question from Colin's son that kind of dovetailed off of that. These were people that have left questions on Locals as of right now. He says, everyone remembers their first. Yep. Do you guys remember your first gun? I'm sure you do. There's just something about it, right? And he says, what year did I purchase the first gun? Well, I kind of answered that. That was in 1994. And what type of SKS is it? Well, it was a Chinese SKS. This one I'm holding here is a very early Chinese. This featuring a 6-digit serial number from factory 66. And if you know anything about the SKS, if it's from factory 66, which there was like, I don't know, dozens and dozens of different factories that made these in China. But factory 26 being the predominant one, especially for military use, you would basically take the 1 million number, digit, and the serial number and add it to 1956, and you would know the year your rifle was made. This one, factory 26, it has a 6-digit serial number, no Chinese characters. In fact, this is 244,000, which tells me this was made rather early on. Not at the very beginning, but rather early on in 1956, with help from Russian advisors who had a deal with sending tooling over to Russia, to China rather, sending advisors. And I've done videos on this in the past. The very last Russian SKS, which were referred to as the letter series, would become the very first Chinese, which would be like the Sino-Soviets. And there's several different variations of that. I do actually have a couple Chinese SKS that are even earlier than this, and I have some of the very last Russians that were made, but this is actually probably the second SKS that I ever bought. So it's not the first one. Sorry I don't have that here, but yeah, Type 56. The first one that I ever bought in 94 had the spike bayonet. It was a later production. Because up to the 9 million serial number range-ish, so about till 1965, they would use the Russian-style blade bayonet for the Chinese SKS, and then do a bunch of teeny little minor evolutions along the way, but one of the notable ones is around 1965 or so, switching over to the famous spike bayonet that a lot of you guys know about. So hopefully that answers those questions right there. And I answered how much it was at the time earlier. Alright, here's another question, a little change of pace here. Snappy Jim asks, how about the Taurus 1911 45? You're awesome, keep up the fantastic work. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate the encouragement and you supporting the channel. The Taurus 1911 45, I have a ton of Taurus pistols, guys, and I'm actually pretty soon going to be doing a Taurus pistol collection. So you guys will see every Taurus pistol I have very soon, right? But I actually don't have a Taurus 1911. Not because I don't want one, just because there's so many models out there that are really cool and, well, like a lot of you guys. I can't have everything I want because I can't afford them all, but here is a 1911 for you. This is a model 1911 A1 U.S. Army. This is made by T-Sauce in Turkey, SDS imports, and this is a real simple, no frills, USGI type 1911. 45 ACP. I've done several videos on this exact gun. I also have the 9mm version, and I have a Ruger SR 1911 that's at home right now. So I don't have a huge 1911 collection. I do like them. It's just, again, I can't have them all, right? So the Taurus 1911, don't have one. I would like to have one, and I've heard that they're excellent firearms, but this is one that I really like that was budget, and hopefully later on I'll end up getting a Taurus, and I'll definitely do reviews for you guys on it. Alright, here's another SKS related question, and this comes from CA Prepper. So shout out to California, and thanks for supporting the channel, man. He says, hey brother, do you have any SKS with the big 20 round fixed magazine? I think those look cool in their own way. I think they do too. Also, I thought it'd be interesting to do maybe a couple of loadouts. Say if you have to grab a rifle and a pistol, what would be your choice out of all the guns you own and why? I'm going to answer the first part of your question right now because somebody else asked the second part of it, so I'll answer both of you guys at the same time in a minute. So as you guys are probably familiar with, the SKS features a 10-round integral magazine. This is the box magazine here. It holds the bolt open on the last round, and you can see a stripper clip guide here through the top of the bolt carrier, just forward of the charging handle, and it was actually designed and intended to feed them 10 rounds at a time with stripper clips. And there are detachable magazines for the SKS. My luck has varied on those, and I tend to actually like to shoot the SKS in its original magazine configuration with the 10-rounder. And I have many reasons for that, but that's a rabbit hole maybe we'll save for another day. So there was also a Chinese-made magazine that's very similar to this, meaning it would fit integrally to the rifle, that actually held 20 rounds. And I do have one right here, kind of. So this is probably what you're referring to, right? CA Prepper, this is the 20 round, otherwise known as the Star SKS magazine. And this was actually given to me by my friend Pillbox Bunker, another friend and supporter of the channel. And he said it had feeding issues. And I can tell you guys right now, here's a problem with it. The follower, the arm for the follower, is allowing it to hyperextend. I've been kind of looking around here and there for the last year or so for a new follower arm. Maybe I can heat this arm up and bend it back, but I do have one. It's not in a rifle right now because it has some issues, and these have been getting a little bit harder to find in recent years because they haven't been brought in the country since '94 when all of this stuff was sanctioned as far as rifles and all of these type parts from China. So I do have one, and I know what you're talking about, and they're awesome. I just don't have one that's actually fully functional in a rifle right now. So there you go. But they're really, really cool. The next question was a good question, just one that unfortunately I can't really answer. Silver HW, thanks for your support, man. Good friend of the channel, and I wanted to answer this one, but I decided it would probably be in everyone's best interest if I didn't. And he's asking about a gun trust, how I would recommend going about that. And that's probably actually more of a lawyer question, and not just any lawyer question, but one that deals specifically in trust, also with firearms. There's many good legal channels on YouTube. I would suggest going there for the answer to that type of question, because I'm just not a lawyer, and there's 50 different states in this country, and they all have different nuances with law like that. And just in my opinion, how to go about doing a proper gun trust has way more to do with the law than it actually does firearms. And I keep up with lots of firearm law, but this is more specific to trust law. So thank you for the question, and I'm actually not blowing it off. I'm actually trying to do you a favor and not answering it, because I would hate to give any of you guys bad advice on that, and I'm just not qualified and couldn't really possibly broach that topic and feel good about my answers. So the next question is from Rudy Finney, longtime friend of the channel. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. He has a question that's more of a fundamental question about rights and kind of the state of affairs of where our country is. And I think it's a good question, one that's not simple to answer, but I'm going to read it and answer it the best I can briefly. He says, do you think we as a nation have become too or so weak that our line in the sand will continue to be moved further and further back to the point of no return? I know a lot of you guys think about this topic. He says, I see parents all across our great nation standing up for their children, fighting what I believe is a good moral fight. I often wonder, though, how much infringement on all of our God-given rights does it take before we stand united? I love this country and all the people in it. It breaks my heart to think about the struggle our future generations will be left with, all because we couldn't be strong enough to fight that fight for them. Look, man, that's a really, really good question, and it's actually a very philosophical question, and your question's actually at the core of, like, what it means to be an American and what the United States of America is. And we didn't just start asking this question today, believe it or not. Thomas Jefferson was actually asking this same question right around 1788 when the Constitution had been drafted but wasn't quite published. That's when he actually wrote his famous Tree of Liberty letter. He couldn't believe that a dozen years had already passed, right, since 1776, and that he had already seen so many of our natural rights usurped by the government up to that point. And literally the ink wasn't even dry on the Constitution yet. He was looking to get the first draft of it so he could share it with his friend that he was writing the letter to. And that's when Thomas Jefferson said, I can't believe it, you know, between all of these states and this dozen years that's passed, that's over 200 years combined. And we haven't had any battles yet of the people fighting back. And that's when he said, let them take arms. And that's the famous quote of the Tree of Liberty, right? From time to time, the blood of patriots and tyrants must be shed, right? And it talks about that being the Tree of Liberty's natural manure. That's not a quote. I'm just summarizing what it said. So definitely go back and look at that letter, because this question's been asked a lot of times. We've had a civil war in this country, literally. We've had lots of points of turmoil and strife, and I've often thought about it, and I think right now we are in a sort of civil war in this country right now. Not completely hot and not completely cold, probably somewhere in the middle, because I've certainly seen lots of strife on the streets and destruction of property and people's lives lost in the name of what was called mostly peaceful protests. And I think a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. But really it comes down to, in my opinion, all of us good people just want a better place for our kids when we leave this world, and for them to be just as free, if not quite a bit more free than we are right now. And certainly lots of freedoms have been usurped in this country, and I believe this country strayed very, very far away from what the founders' intent was. But I don't think the founders would be surprised by anything that's going on right now, because they didn't say, look, we're going to have a republic, a constitutional republic of the people, by the people, for the people, and the only reason the government would exist at all is to protect our natural rights. See, that's what they founded it on. But they didn't say we would just have it no matter what, that it wouldn't take any fighting along the way, and that freedom would be free. They never told us freedom would be free. In fact, Ben Franklin said those who would give up an essential liberty for a little bit of perceived security would actually wind up with neither and deserve neither. And I think he was right. And we've lost a lot of our natural rights and freedoms and liberties in the name of some so-called guise of security. I'm from the government. I'm here to help, right? Yeah, those are some of the scariest words you can hear. That's what Ronald Reagan said. And Ben Franklin was asked at the founding of this country by a woman. She said, sir, what do we have? Do we have a monarchy or a republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And that's very, very important, the way he worded that. And I think those were very wise words. And I think that's what you're asking about, aren't you, Rudy? He didn't say we will have a republic forever because it's written on a piece of parchment paper. And those words that were written are beautiful words, and they're very smart words. But at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper if people don't stand for it. So part of me wants to be black-pilled and say, you know what, we've lost so many rights, it's probably over, and we just keep moving the line in the sand more and more every day. And I wouldn't be wrong to think that way, and you guys aren't wrong to think of it that way either, because it's actually true. We've gone from literally shall not be infringed, which means even one gun control law would be unconstitutional, to 20-something thousand federal gun relations, and they're just piling them on us right now quicker and quicker and quicker. So Clearly, we're not living by the standards of the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, as amended by the Second Amendment. We're not even following one of the very early Supreme Court precedent cases, Marbury v. Madison, which says all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. And all gun control is repugnant to the Constitution, since it literally says, shall not be infringed, so they should all be null and void by multiple founding documents, early Supreme Court cases, and all of that. So I understand why you asked this question, and I don't have a particularly smart answer to give, other than, yeah, dude, it sucks, and we've had tons of our rights infringed upon, and they're trying to infringe upon more and more and more. But I also do get encouragement for some of the same reasons you do. You said you see parents all across our great nation standing up for their children, and that's true, and that does give me a lot of encouragement. And I see lots of people standing up for the Second Amendment and the rights that it protects. And I see that every day, and I see it in the chats on my live stream. So that too gives me a lot of encouragement. So here's where I'm at. There is no conclusive answer for this right now. The line in the sand, where is it? Do we even have one at all? I don't know, because the line just keeps moving and moving and moving, and they just keep encroaching more and more and more. And it seems like people keep retreating back and back and back. But the Declaration of Independence actually talks about this, and I just don't know where we're at right now. Because it literally says, and I'm going to read an excerpt, and this might be a lot of wisdom for all of us to think about. And it says, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. And I think that's what you're talking about, how the line in the sand keeps moving, and we just keep giving up more and more and more. Probably because these evils have been sufferable enough. And as long as we can still have some guns, nobody wants to stand up for the right that they're actually taking the lawful ability to own a lot of these away. They can't take the right, because that's endowed by your creator, but they can make things unlawful and put many hurdles in place. And I think the founding fathers knew about that. That's why they said mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable. But then it goes on, and here's where the next part comes into play, and that a lot of us are probably thinking about. It says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. So I guess what you have to ask yourself is, have we reached absolute despotism? Because the founding fathers predicted that's actually what it takes before people will stand up and put in a government that they see fit to protect their natural rights and liberties. So I hate to answer your question with a question, but I wanted to talk about this topic because it's something I think about a lot. And there are things that should get us very disgusted and get us sick, that we've allowed our country to get to the point where it is. That's fine, and we should acknowledge that. We can't just put our heads in the sand anymore, guys. It's too much. Too much of this ostrich putting its head in the sand and saying, but they ain't coming after my 1911, so I'm okay. Well, the founding fathers talked about that, right? But at the same time, I see lots of encouragement. I see lots of people finally waking up and getting it. I see a new era of people that are looking back to what the founding documents really are and what they protect and what's endowed to us by our creator. So I do see lots of optimism, but this is an uphill battle that unfortunately our forefathers kind of slacked off on fighting quite a bit over the years. And are we still slacking off right now? Maybe, but I still see lots of optimism, and I think everyone should still stay encouraged and keep fighting the good fight. So thank you for that question. It's impossible to totally answer because it's very, very complicated, but thanks, man. Hopefully a lot of the viewers are thinking about this stuff too. Gabby asked a question which is kind of fun. She's saying if she has a high cap Glock mag, how much will it weigh when you fill it up? Well, it can actually weigh a lot, right? Some of these magazines hold probably a pound of ammunition in them. And then she says, I know what one of you guys would say, only till you shoot it about 20 times. Well, duh, that's the obvious answer. The faster you shoot it, it's not heavy anymore. But no, that is something to factor in. So thanks, Gabby. We do have it where Some firearms you can almost like double the size, if not more, just due to all the ammunition that's loaded in that magazine. Alright, let me take a look here, guys. I printed these from 3 different places. Here's the gunsmithing question. We're going to get to that in a few minutes with help from the Shooting Gallery New England channel, which there's a link to his channel down there in the description, guys. Tim R. Shock said, with your connections to Palmetto, he means PSA, I'd be interested in finding out if they're going to offer the dagger slide with the Doctor footprint a la carte without the Vortex Venom, because that's a combo they would offer with the Venom. And yes, actually, since you've asked this question, they do offer that, and I believe it's available right now. He said he'd also like to know my thoughts on the Taurus PT 24/7 Pro and 45 ACP. I actually know virtually nothing about that pistol, so sorry, man. I can't really answer much. That's actually before I got into Taurus firearms, so they had already stopped making those. So if you guys remember, I've talked about this quite a few times, but my first Taurus pistol, a G2C, the video was called New Warranty and Is It Worth the Hype? I had long considered up to that point Taurus to be completely crap pistols, and they had had litigation and different problems that were well known a while ago now. And they weren't on my radar. Not because I was a gun snob. I've never been a gun snob. I had just stayed away from Taurus pistols up until the G2C. And now you guys know where I've gone from then. And I was like completely shockingly surprised in a good way. The G2C I found to be an excellent firearm. And now it's gone to the point where I have almost a couple dozen Taurus pistols. And you guys will see all those in the collection video. So that's a little bit before my time. We the People had a question that's pretty cool. He said, so thanks for supporting and thanks for the question, Tim and We the People. He said, if you could only have one firearm of each type, one rifle, one pistol, one shotgun, what would you go with? And how do you prefer to concealed carry? Well, I concealed carry several ways: in the pocket, IWB, OWB, sometimes open carrying when I want to, sometimes concealed carrying with just an outer garment over, right? Multiple different types of holsters and setups there. A lot of times I conceal carry just in my vehicle, right? Sometimes I'll have a AK pistol or the like just loaded sitting right there on my front seat, and that's considered concealed carrying in the state of Michigan. So that varies in literally all of those different ways that I told you. This is a fun question people like to ask, and it's actually very, very hard to answer. One of each? Are you kidding me? If you made me limit it to 10 of each type, it would be almost impossible. So this isn't my final answer, but I'm going to try. All right? And this is a really, really tough question to ask. And maybe that's why you asked it. I'm actually going to go with, okay, so a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. All right, for the pistol, this may surprise some of you guys, but I have a couple reasons. And it's actually going to be the Taurus GX4 or 9mm. First of all, I think this is a great little carry gun. The trigger is excellent, in my opinion, for concealed carry. And this thing is teeny, guys. It's teeny. And it actually holds quite a few rounds of ammo. So, if you look at how small this is, this with the flush fit 11 round magazine, I can fit this in the pocket, inside the waist, outside the waist, in small little compartments of backpacks, in the vehicle, many different ways. So, this thing's just so tiny, and it holds so many rounds of ammunition for how small it is. And I actually have, where did I put that? I have one of the 11 round or 13 round mags. Here it is. I've got stuff all over because I have multiple things I want to show in this video. I can also carry a reload of 13 rounds. It makes it a little bit longer, but that would be presumably if I needed to use it, you know, more than 11 rounds. So yeah, that's why. Just because it's so concealable and holds quite a bit of ammunition. And this is an OWB. This is a Forge Tech, which is a way I would carry this pistol sometimes. Here's an appendix inside the waistband, and this is the Toro model with this hollow sun. So as far as which one would be the only one I would carry, I don't know. Depends what type of situation. Maybe the one without the optics, that's just less frills and less to go out. But in a normal, like regular old society type setting, the Toro is really cool with the optic. But if it was like grid down and the end of the world as we know it, I might go back to the complete basics and just have the one with the iron sights. But same thing here, 11 round capacity, flush fit. And here's a couple different holster options. I've done videos on these before, guys, as well as even showing that, yes, it was the non-Toro model. Does actually fit fine in my pocket. Now, as far as a long gun, no question about it, it's going to be an AK. And this may surprise some of you guys, right? Because this is the most important of all three, if you ask me. You carry a pistol to get to your rifle, right? And shotguns have uses too, but the rifle is literally what it's all about for so many scenarios. And this is a Wasser 1063, and just for purposes of me being on YouTube right now, this is a 20 round magazine because of the restrictions here, but normally carried with appropriate size magazines, right? This is a Wasser 1063. I have several of these, and I've had them for many, many years. In my bedroom of my home, my go-to rifle that's ready to go is a Wasser 1063. In my shop, I have one that's completely ready to go. It's actually not this one, and that is my go-to for defense of my shop. And this is a third one that I have, and this is the old-fashioned Cougar import that's made off an original PM63 parts kit. You guys remember these? They'll have the dates and emblems there on the trunnion. This being 1975. So made from a military parts kit with a Romanian cold hammer forged chrome lined barrel. You are going to notice a couple things like the lack of the magazine stabilizer dimples here, which looks a little weird, but there is stabilizing tabs that are spot welded on the inside. It does have the mount there on the side. Original laminated wood furniture, where they would often shave off the, quote, dong-shaped handguard that I've shown on other ones like my PSA GF3R Romanian parts kit build and others. But these used to be dirt cheap, guys. And this one's still in its original configuration. And while I'm talking about the Wasser, I'll tell you guys a couple of little interesting things about this. Wassers, not particularly rare. Although they're really cool, especially I think the older ones that had the military furniture on them and were made from actual original military kits. This gun, by the way, YouTube, is completely unmodified, 100% the way Century Arms made it, just for the record, for YouTube people that like to watch these videos. This one is actually one of the only AKs you're going to be able to get. Now, I don't mean cut up parts kits, but in its original form, that actually served in a war and is a true bring back. Literally. So this comes actually back to the United States from the Iraq War, and they brought these back a couple years ago. And the Wasser, as you know, is semi-automatic. Well, they actually shipped over a few of these for security forces, private security contractors that mainly, some Americans, but mainly employed Ugandans. And there was a lot of Ugandan people from Uganda that would actually hold these and use these for guarding security checkpoints and bases overseas when we were fighting the war in Iraq. So the security company basically bought a bunch of Wasser 1063s from Century Arms, shipped them over there. Many, like I said, Ugandan security contractors that were allied with the United States. And some Americans would actually carry and hold these. So this saw service in Iraq. It still has some of the original sandbox dust in some of the crevices. I'm purposely trying to keep that there just for kind of, you know, nostalgia reasons. And I actually have the provenance from where I purchased this that, yeah, this is actually a bring back, and it was sent over to the war in semi-auto configuration, which means it can be imported right back into the U.S. It was already 922R compliant when they sent them over to Iraq. They brought them back much in the same way, and you can see the number there on the stock written in some kind of bold marker, and you can just see honest wear from where this thing was actually carried and used in service in its semi-auto configuration with the Century muzzle brake there and the Tapco G2 trigger, all of that. Like I said, I've not modified this rifle. The only thing I did for this video to make it compliant with YouTube is put this 20 round mag in, but there you go, a Wasser 1063, and this thing's been shot a ton. It is smooth, guys, literally smooth as butter. And these came into the country a few years ago and are actually quite uncommon, with this having the provenance of actually serving in Iraq and being a true bring back that wasn't cut up. Shotgun, oh man, this is even tougher, man. I go back and forth. You know, I have a Remington 870 Express Magnum shotgun that I bought years ago back in the 90s, pre Freedom Group and all this crap and stuff that's going on now. I'm talking the old original 870. But that one was close. But probably if I could only have one, I'd go with my Vepr 12. Made in Russia by Molot, the Vepr 12. It's a gas-operated, semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun, detachable mags, and I just think they're a beast. Bulged front trunnion, thicker stamped sheet metal receiver. Yeah, I just think they're a beast, and I think they're an awesome shotgun. So, from the guns that I own, and I don't have that one here with me either, I'm sorry, I would go basically Taurus GX4, maybe the Toro, maybe not. A Wasser 1063, and I have 3 of these, and a Vepr 12, 12-gauge shotgun from the Molot factory in Russia. Alright, the next one's also an AK question, and this comes from my friend Mark. He says, and thank you Mark, he says, since I now have gotten into the AK platform, which I know is your #1 favorite, and that's true, and welcome, man. Hopefully you like the AK. I certainly do. He said, how often should you do an extensive clean, more than just doing a bore snake prep? Okay, so cleaning the bore from time to time, extensive clean. This is going to shock some of you not at all, and some people are going to like this answer, and some people are going to hate it, but I'll give you my honest opinion and what I do. A deep clean, besides maybe just mopping the bore or brushing the bore, virtually never. In fact, kind of like almost to the point of literally never. Now, I'll tell you guys a couple things that go along with that. Now, first of all, the AK, very loose tolerances, very open receiver on the inside, rotating bolt. This is a gas gun, piston driven. Like I said, loose tolerances. That's what kind of makes them maybe rattle a little bit here and there, but it makes them kind of just run like crazy. Now, I will say this, early on, when I first got into the AK, I was of the mind, and some of you might be right now, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just trying to tell you what I do. I used to be of the mind to get in there and grease those rails with wheel bearing grease, and grease the bearing surfaces of the bolt, like the bolt stem where it's in the carrier, and then the ears where it locks up in the trunnion, right? And I found when I did that, I actually had to do like crazy extensive cleaning all the time, because much of the ammo I would shoot, Russian surplus type ammo, or, you know, military surplus or modern day Russian manufacturer, I should say, and some Russian surplus too as far as that goes, a lot of times would have lacquer, which is almost like a shellac, right? And a lot of them would have like sealed primers and bullets, and I would find that somehow every little bit of that lacquer, or even like the poly coating they put on the steel cases as a rust preventative, would wind up back in my action, and instead of it just kind of falling out and blowing out as it shot, it would stick to that grease, and before you know it, I would just see chunks everywhere, and the grease would migrate from the rails and the bolt where I was purposely putting it all over the inside of the receiver, and I'd look down in there and just see a mess of little like pieces and particles of all of that stuff from the ammunition. Unburnt powder would just collect. So I no longer use grease anymore, because I found it's just a magnet for just debris and dirt and powder and, like I said, case coating residue and all of that. So I've gone away from grease. I still use grease in some gun lube applications, but I do not grease my AKs. I know there's people that do. People here on YouTube that many would argue shoot 1,000,000 times more than me and probably know more about everything than me. I'm not going against what other people do. I don't use grease anymore because of those reasons I just said. I believe it's a dirt magnet, period, end of story. Don't like it. I would say, well, you could just clean your gun every day. I don't have time to clean it for an hour and a half every time I shoot it, because there's all this grease, gunk, garbage everywhere. So I've been lubricating my AKs with just a little bit of oil. This is motor oil, like literally just in a little needle bottle. And I just grease a little bit, or oil rather, a little bit on the rails, a little bit where the bolt stem goes into the carrier, right? Put a little bit on the recoil spring just to keep everything nice and free there so it doesn't rust over time. A little bit on the rails, a little bit on the ears of the bolt where they rotate and lock into that trunnion. And that's it. No lubricant should be in here ever, in my opinion. Not whatsoever in the gas tube, because the gas piston does not have a zero interference fit. Tons of carbon ends up in this area, and it'll naturally kind of clean itself, from my experience, out of these off-gassing holes and back into the action. It just kind of self-cleans itself unless you have it either too slopped with grease, especially, or even over-oiled. That will actually, in my opinion, become your worst nightmare. So I oil them very little and essentially don't really do any deep cleaning at all, and I personally don't find it necessary. And it's a great question, and the answer might be shocking to some, and some of you might be nodding your head being like, yeah, I don't really clean my AK at all either. So that's my answer. JJ Rainey, thanks for your support, man. Had a question that I'm not going to be able to give a real good answer to, but I will a little bit. He said, have you used shoulder holsters before? And if so, what's your favorite? I only own one shoulder holster. It's a Galco leather holster for my Ruger SR 1911, right? And it basically has a 1911 on the one side and a dual mag pouch carrier on the other. I decided, early on after I got my first 1911 and bought that shoulder holster rig, shoulder holster carry wasn't really for me. But I can think there are some advantages of that, especially if you're sitting down a lot. If you're sitting in a chair and either don't mind having it open, perfect. Or an outer garment or jacket over it, or even in a vehicle. Now, there's the whole seatbelt issue, and some state laws vary on seatbelts and all that. But even with the seatbelts, it's probably one of the easiest positions to draw from up here if you're sitting down, whether it be in a vehicle or in an office. So I see uses for them. I think it's a fine setup for many people. I own a leather Galco. The quality of it seems to be awesome. I believe it's a very good holster. I don't carry it a lot, though, because it's just not really my thing. But I definitely don't advocate against using a shoulder holster. And mainly when you're sitting down, in my opinion, is where those really shine. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Okay, just a couple more, guys, and then we're going to do the gunsmithing session with Shooting Gallery New England. So, N8IWS, otherwise known as Dale Konya. Thanks for being a supporter, man, and thanks for the question. He says, since I'm new to the AR platform, I would like to see a segment on what should you have in your case, or have with you in case you break yours at the range. Who makes an essential spare parts kit? I read firing pins are fragile. Cleaning and lubrication, instructional segment. All right, I'm not going to get into cleaning and lubricating here, but let me know in the comments, guys, if you guys need that. Maybe I could do a separate standalone video, either here on YouTube or on Locals. I actually did a video talking about these spare parts and things that I think you need to have for your AR. I think it was a pretty informative video, and I already did that on YouTube, so I'm going to leave a link down there in the pinned comment or description. You guys can check both places for that video, so go there if you haven't seen it yet, because I probably did that video 2 years ago-ish now, so hopefully that'll help you. And let's see, firing pins. Look, anything can break. I definitely recommend having a extra firing pin. In my opinion, I don't believe the AR... If you're talking 15, 2, 2, 3, 5, 5, 6 platform, I don't really believe them to be quite fragile. And from my experience, there's other parts that actually go out usually before the firing pin. I know some people's experience may vary on that, but I don't really completely agree with them being known to be quite fragile. That's just my opinion, but they're cheap and certainly a great idea to have an extra one. So check out that link down there in the description. Now the next one, and you guys are about to see this part in just a second, was the gunsmithing question. And this was originally asked by Diesel Mike, so thank you for your support, man. He's a supporter on a couple different places, and he asked this on Locals. And he said, do you have any knowledge about gunsmith schools? Do you know where anyone has gone to gunsmith? Do you know anyone who has gone to gunsmith school? Do you know of any apprenticeship programs out there for gunsmithing? I've considered going to gunsmith school, but not sure what to look for as far as a curriculum, whether or not the school is accredited, and so on. Any input would be appreciated. Well, we also had Rudy Finney join in, wondering some of the same, and my friend Ross77 asking more about it. So thank you guys for your support. And I am going to come in here right now with Joe from Shooting Gallery New England, and we're going to talk about gunsmithing together. So you guys had a question about whether you should become a gunsmith, different types of schools, and I quite frankly have no idea. So I thought it'd be fun to bring my friend on. This is Joe from Shooting Gallery New England channel on YouTube.
Hello.
How's it going, Joe?
It's going wonderful, man. How about yourself?
Pretty good, man. I think this will be cool. Hopefully you guys like this information, because you have a little bit of experience on gunsmithing and gunsmithing school. So can you just tell us real quick, like, are you a gunsmith? How did you get started in it? Whatever.
So yeah, I am a gunsmith. I am a head gunsmith over at Cape Gunworks, and I handle all the ATF stuff over there. I'm the lead guy, so I do all the work. I did go to gunsmithing school. I went to Sonoran Desert Institute's an online gunsmithing school, and it this is my first job out of college, and it I will say, people that do online gunsmithing school, or if they go to like Pennsylvania gunsmithing school out in Pennsylvania, or the Colorado or the Denver one, or somewhere out in Colorado, that's hands-on. Online's a little bit different. I will say the one thing I did notice just coming out of college, it took a lot to get into the industry. Granted, I'm in Massachusetts. I mean, if I was down south, it would be a little bit easier, but um, if you're looking to work for a shop to kind of get your foot in the door, it might take a little bit. It's not just instant, oh, I have my degree and there you go. I'm going to be the next, big gunsmith at this shop. It will take a little bit.
Okay, so I think that's how it works actually in a lot of professions. So, for
Yep.
example, you could get a bachelor's degree, you could get a teaching certificate, and a lot of times you actually have to start by substitute teaching for a while before a district will hire you on as a full-time teacher. And I think I'm hearing you say gunsmiths are kind of like that. So,
Yep.
you went to school, okay,
Yep.
got your degree, your certifications, and then you're like out in the real world. So what is that, like an apprenticeship, or like how does somebody actually start making money if they want to be a gunsmith?
So there's a few different ways to do it. I didn't want to open my own FFL. I didn't want to open my own shop just because that's just where I was in life. So I looked forever to find a shop, and I was fortunate enough to find Cape Gunworks. I started working under someone that was the guy that I took over for. And I was fresh out of college. So like I was just more of like, okay, it's time to get hands-on experience. Um, there are apprenticeships out there depending on the person that is willing to teach. I've always equated getting into the firearms industry, especially with gunsmithing, is like getting into the pro wrestling industry back in the 80s. You have to start at the bottom and to work your way up to the big show. So I was fortunate enough. I apprenticed. I got shown the ropes how to work a mill and do like some basic stuff, and then obviously I took the knowledge I learned from college in there. But you could also say you go to college, if you feel confident enough, you can start out getting a small place and open your own FFL, whether it be a full gun store, a full gunsmithing shop. It all depends on what you want to do. What do you want to specialize in? And how do you want to start off? Do you just want to start swapping triggers out to get your foot wet, or do you want to go fully into gunsmithing and start refinishing?
Okay. And this may or may not apply to the particular shop you got hired at. So I guess maybe with you, and then also just generally, people were asking me, like, does it matter if the school you go to is accredited? And are there certain like names of schools that are going to hold more clout as far as getting a job after you graduate?
Yes and no. It depends on, for instance, like my shop, they didn't know what SDI was. They knew what SDI was, but they're like, okay, so he has it. I always tell people, no matter what college you go to, first of all, the education, especially in gunsmithing, is key. But I wouldn't get hung up on the degree. Like my degree is an associate's in firearms technology.
Okay.
It's not just gunsmithing; it's a wide variety. I got a advanced armor certificate in 1911 working. Think of it like this: the college shows your employer you can be taught, or you can follow direction. That piece of paper is just okay, cool. That's what you're looking at when you're in the interview and you give them a resume and say, yeah, I have my associate's degree. Here's my copy. They're gonna look at that and say, okay, you can follow direction. That's it. It's not, I'm not trying to downplay your college degree, but that's what it is. It's showing an employer or whoever you want to work for, okay, I actually took the initiative to get the knowledge to do this job.
Yeah, and that you're capable of learning new things. Because I also have an associate's degree, which has nothing to do with firearms and probably not germane to anything, but I do have one, and I'm proud that I have it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Pennsylvania. It's funny because the actual supporter who asked me this question says he does live in Pennsylvania. And they were talking about the pros and cons of going to like this particular school in Pennsylvania he's talking about.
Is it Pennsylvania Gunsmith School?
I think that was the name of it. I'm just checking the question here.
Yep.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania Gunsmith School. And there was a couple guys going back and forth. Diesel, Mike, and Ross. So thank you guys for being supporters. And they were kind of going back and forth, like, what's the pros and cons? Like SDI versus Pennsylvania Gunsmith School. Not really comparing the two companies, but the concept of hands-on versus doing things mainly online. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. So with me, I will admit I was not a school person. When I was in high school, I didn't want to be there. It didn't interest me. But when it came to I want to get the knowledge, SDI worked for me because I was able to do it at home. I didn't have distractions. I could sit at my computer. They give you books. They send you all the materials. Sometimes online college is good. It all depends on how you are as a student. I wish I had a lot more hands-on experience in college. That is the one downside to online school. It doesn't matter if you're a gunsmith, you're learning to be, ad marketer. It doesn't matter. Hands-on experience is the best education. So it's going to, online school, that's the one detriment. Being at, say, Pennsylvania Gunsmith School, I have never been there. I know my good friend Richard Hoffman of BWE Firearms is a graduate of Pennsylvania Gunsmith School. And he said he actually really enjoyed the education. Nowadays, it's a lot different too, depending on what you're looking to do at a shop or on your own FFL. Work is going to be a lot different than it was when Pennsylvania Gunsmith School was like the only school out there.
Yeah, you're not just sighting in people's scopes and tapping receivers for scope rings. There's actually many things, and in your case, I know a lot of your gun and smithing work has to do with gun control laws, right, and making things compliant.
Yep.
So here's kind of what I want to know, just from my standpoint, because I mow lawns for a living. I have a landscaping business, and most of us love to go out and cut our own lawn, right?
Yep.
But once you start cutting lawns 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, it's not as fun as it used to be. And you know where I'm heading with this question.
Yep.
So people that love guns want to be a gunsmith. You love guns, which is probably one of the main reasons you wanted to be a gunsmith. Is it still fun now that you're doing it for a living? And can you still love guns, even though it's work and there's tons of pressure on you to perform at your job?
Easiest way to answer it, it's the best decision I ever made in my entire life. I wake up every morning and I've done some pretty, I was an interior and exterior painter for 10 years, worked for my dad. I hated being a painter. All right. I went to car sales. That job is so mentally draining. And then I was an armed security officer while I was still, this is after I graduated college and trying to find a job in the industry. And I have not had as much anxiety going into a job. I love going to work every day. There's something new every single day. A majority of my job is cleaning, basic gun cleanings. But the guns I get to clean are it's like a couple days ago, I just got in a World War II bring back. It was an original German-made FN Browning high power, FN stamp Browning high power. Nice. And it had all the markings on it, and it was so beautiful. And I get to take that down, test fire it, and actually see wow, this is what they used back in the day. Or I'll get the chance to work with some Kalashnikovs every once in a while, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. It just everything is always new. You're gonna get your basic Apex installs, sight and scope installs, just like part swapping. That's a lot of the job too. But at the same time, you get the experience of working down guns. You get to understand design, function, troubleshooting. That is a lot of your job.
And you're getting to help probably educate people, hang out with gun people, which is why we do our YouTube channels, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think basically the old saying, it sounds like applies to you. If you're having fun, what you do for a living, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's some work involved.
Sure.
It's never not all fun and games. There is a downside of, with me, I feel that my biggest downside of working as a gunsmith is I second guess myself a lot because I care about the work that leaves that shop. So I'm always like, all right, did I do this right? Did I do this right? And it does drive me crazy because I overthink, but it's because I care. Yeah. And then obviously there's going to be the times where it's like, okay, you need to get this done. You need to get this done when you have a log of probably 2-week back orders of just waiting on parts. This isn't working. You can't get this gun fixed. And I've actually had instances where I just can't fix the gun, whether it's the parts aren't working, they don't make parts, I don't have the knowledge to actually go even further. Things are going to happen. You're going to have bad days, but in the long run, being a gunsmith, probably one of the funnest jobs you could ever be. Is if you really love guns, best job you could ever do.
Okay, so yeah, and guys, I'm gonna vouch for this. That's why I wanted to have you on here, man. Is you're a really nice person. It was cool to get to meet you in real life last year. Real quick fun fact, if I'm allowed to go there. If not, I can edit this out.
Go ahead.
There are some hazards with being a gunsmith, because when I met him down there at the Iraq veteran shoot, bandage around his hand, I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "Drill bit still stuck in my hand, and they can't take it out right now." Do I kind of have that right?
Yep. Yeah, right before the Iraq veteran shoot, literally 2 days before, I think 2 days before, I was doing some compliance work because of my state. We have to have pin and welded muzzle brakes on all of our rifles, which I think is unconstitutional, but you know, that's a different discussion. So I put it, and that's the thing. Take your time. There's no rushing. There's no easy way, quick fix in gunsmithing. If you are working around machines, you better be safe. I was rushed. I was being rushed, and I was trying to get everything done because I'm going away. I want to get everything all set. And I had a Kel-Tec RDB set up in the mill. And when I was trying to level out the mill, thank God the mill wasn't running. I had it in the vise, got the blocks all set up so it's level. I went to go kind of adjust it a little bit more. My hand slipped, and I still have the scar right here.
Yeah, man.
I had a 3/4 inch carbide drill bit go right into my hand. I had to get surgery.
Well, we can laugh about it now, but
it was a fun time. Yeah, it's an interesting story. Meeting everybody for the first time. Oh, what happened to your hand? I stabbed myself.
Yeah, but you were in a good mood, and that was the first time I met you. And
I didn't care.
It was awesome.
But yeah, no, there are some, and that's the thing too. Not just drilling. There's, if you do a lot of welding, you need to be safe about the materials you use. I have shocked myself, grinded myself out with a TIG welder many, many times. You're dealing with metal shavings. Eye protection is really the key. Make sure you don't want to have anything stuck in your eye. There's a lot of safety involved in gunsmithing because again, you're working with something that has explosions.
Yes,
constantly.
And you're going to learn that stuff in school, but it sounds like it's like with most careers, you're going to learn way more in real life. But you often need the schooling to show on your resume that you're worthy of getting the interview and then hopefully getting the job, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, don't be afraid. My biggest thing was I never wanted to make a mistake because, I spent the money to go to school. I should know this. You're going to make a mistake. Employers knew that. My employer knew this was my first job as a gunsmith or as an apprentice. I worked my tail off. I was there a half hour early. I was the first one there, last one to leave. Learning. And God bless them at Cape Gun Works. They took a chance on me, and I absolutely love working with them. But I've made some mistakes, and some of them, there's a rare occasion you make a mistake that is just unrepairable.
You run the gun.
Yeah, you ruin the gun. It's a really rare occasion, and you really have to mess up big time to do that. For instance, my first big mistake, I drilled through the barrel of a SCAR 20, drilled right through the barrel, and I'm not and it's going right down to the threads, and I went a little bit too far, and it came through the inside. It's not going to damage the rifling. I found a way I've realized how to fix it when you put the stake through, even everything out. But still, you got to think, you got a $4,500 rifle that you just drilled through the barrel. I've scraped the finish, a DLC coating off an agency arm SIG 320 slide, not thinking, because again, I was new, I'm learning. But again, learn how to fix your mistakes or make the customer know that, okay, you're going to do right by them, whether it be replacing the slide, getting it sent out to get fixed. There's all the ways to do it. You're going to make mistakes here and there.
Yeah. So it just sounds like a big learning process, basically.
Yes.
So two quick questions and we'll get on out of here. So as far as you can tell, and I know you're like in Massachusetts there,
Yep.
but you also are familiar with the whole country because of all your social media stuff. Is there actually like opportunities for new gunsmiths? In other words, is this a growing industry or is it kind of like a dying industry in your opinion?
Nope. Think of it like being a plumber. Someone's always going to need a plumber. Someone's always going to need a gunsmith. You're always going to have work, whether it's, oh, I just bought this brand new gun. Can you take a look over it, clean it, make sure it's function properly? Um, it's there's always going to be someone who needs their gun fixed. You talk to 10 people, five or six of them are going to say, ah, man, I actually have something I'd love for you to look at. I don't really know that much about. This is the problem I'm having.
Yeah.
And it's you just play process of elimination, not just going on your own. Say if you want to get more into the industry where, say if you want to work for an actual manufacturer, where you can get, 401k, retirement, and actually have a career as a, gunsmith.
Yeah.
Warranty departments are always hiring. Assembly lines are always hiring. Every company has a warranty department, whether it be Taurus, Smith & Wesson, Ruger. Yeah. If you know how to fix guns, or you have at least the knowledge, again, you have that degree that says you are trainable. You took your time and learned your process. You can go, the sky's the limit, and you don't have to open your own shop. You could work for the industry. You could work at a gun store. You could do a lot of stuff.
No, that sounds pretty encouraging, actually. People probably don't think of that often.
Yeah.
Every single manufacturer there is has a gunsmith or teams of gunsmiths in some cases that are just sitting there fixing people's warranty repairs and technical support and everything.
Yep. Or even for another good one is Brownells. They have the tech support line where they have gunsmiths that literally people call them and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And they get people that been smithing for a while and they say, yep, no, try this. And then say, this is the product. You could find, with a gunsmithing degree, you could find to do anything. You could say, if you wanted to build guns for a living and go work at places like Nighthawk Customs, they have, like, I don't know how many they have there, but they make all those beautiful 1911s by hand.
Yeah.
And some of them are in the 1911 Guild, where they took the time, manufactured their own firearm, and had it sent in for a review and stuff like that. And you're able to do stuff like that. And that's not even getting into like machining. Like, I'll admit, I have no idea how to machine stuff. I don't know how to work a lathe. I am lucky enough to learn how to use a mill or a Bridgeport.
Right.
Again, enough to be dangerous, as you can see. But learning how to machine, whether it be running a lathe for threading barrels or reboring a barrel rifle, I'd recommend someone getting some machining experience. The CNC, not really, unless you're like manufacturing muzzle brakes. But
yeah,
the machining is another big part of gunsmithing as well.
So it sounds like to me, and this is what I like about you, you're just a regular old dude as far as I can tell. So you don't have to be like a rocket scientist to get into the industry. No. Just get in there and kind of learn as you go and get those credentials and degree that you're going to need first, right?
Yep. I would say, first of all, the passion's got to be there. If you're not passionate about it, you are not going to want to do it. You're going to dread going to work every day. And it's not for everybody. I tell people, you're going to get some stuff that you just don't want to work on, and you got to be honest. But at the same time if you want to work in the industry, gunsmithing, working at a shop, best part you could start. And, that doesn't mean you can't go work for a manufacturer and do the same thing, but
sure.
Get on the ground floor and see how what are people looking, what's coming in. Like when I go back to work, I got a couple cleanings. I got a rifle install I got to do. There's a couple shotgun troubleshooting stuff. Anything, the shop I work at has a range with a rental wall, and that stuff goes down all the time. I got to fix stuff all the time. So it's like,
but you're probably looking forward to going to work Monday though, right?
Yeah, I look forward to going to work every single day.
Okay. So here's my final question here, and we better get running. If somebody were to come to you and say, look, I'm a hard worker, because we already said that's a big part of it. They love guns. Would you recommend them starting from the beginning and becoming a gunsmith and getting into that industry?
Oh, 100%. I'd say get your education, whether it be going through Modern Gun School, Sonoran Desert Institute. If you're fortunate enough to go to an actual like physical school, get the education. The more education you get, the farther you can go. and the more fun you're going to have. I had more fun in college just learning about certain designs and learning about how to fix stuff that I couldn't get enough. Every week I was glued to my computer learning, reading all the books. I haven't read books since high school, and
Yeah.
in college I read all through the workbooks, and it was just like the most reading I've ever done in my life.
No, that's awesome, dude. And I think just one more time, from what I'm hearing you say, I don't want to mischaracterize this, but as far as whether you should go in person or online, this is for individuals to decide, right? Like
Yep.
different strokes for different folks, depending where you live. Do I kind of have that right?
Yep, it all depends on what type of student you are. If you're confident enough that you can stay true with going online and being disciplined enough to do all the homework, do all the essays, do all the projects and stuff like that, online school is for you. But if you want to have that interactive person-to-person conversation and more hands-on experience before getting into the industry, I went the opposite. I'd had the learning and then I did hands-on experience. If you get hands-on experience while you're learning, that's a plus, but it all depends on the student.
Okay, cool. So, but it sounds like it's a really cool career to get into either way, right?
Oh, yeah, wonderful career.
All right, man. I can't believe it, but 20 minutes has gone by. So here's what I'm going to suggest to all my viewers watching this. We could probably talk about this for hours. If you guys want more info on this, Shooting Gallery New England does regular live streams on YouTube, right?
Yep, Sunday and Monday at 7 p.m.
Sunday and Monday. So he has different topics, but he's pretty interactive with his crowd. So I would suggest maybe asking him a few follow-up questions if you have any in his YouTube chats over in his live stream. And you probably help people out a little more, right?
Of course, I'm always up to answer questions. That's what I'm here for. If you want to follow, you can reach out to me on Instagram or TikTok, or if you got a question, just reach out to me, and I will do my best to give you the best answer.
All right, look him up on IG, his other platforms. I'm going to leave a link to the Shooting Gallery New England YouTube channel in the description of this video. Check him out. He's a really good guy and really good content. So good luck with your channel, man. You've been doing really good, and I appreciate you coming on here to help my viewers.
Well, I thank you, man. I'm always down to have a conversation, and I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
No problem, dude. Hopefully we can hang out in person again soon, man.
I know. Yeah, we got to get another meetup going.
Oh, yeah, we will. All right, see you later, dude.
All right, later, buddy.
All right, bye. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Like I said, more of a longer format hangout, which I know some of you guys don't like, but you're probably not watching right now. But those of you that like the longer videos, hopefully you liked it. And I don't know, depending how busy I am, maybe once a month, probably more like every 2 months, I will do this again. All of the supporters will ask the questions as a little perk for helping to financially support the channel. But I want to hook up everybody, and that's why I'm putting the content, the answers, the hangout out to everybody on YouTube. So I appreciate all you guys, and I'm going to go do some more videos right now, and I'll get ready for another one of these in probably about a month or so. All right, thanks for watching, and have a good one.